Page 96, Over the Rainbow. Now there's a note at the top of this page that some editions of this book do not include this piece or any of the other pieces in the rest that I'm going to cover. For the rest of the book, there's 7 of them, and some books don't have these 7. So I don't know if your book has it or not, but if it has it, here it is. 4/4 time, key is C major, no sharps or flats, except for the accidentals, blah, blah, blah. Let's start with the right hand. I have some suggestions I like to make. Now we're getting into a little more involved music. You're getting out of the beginner level, more into an early intermediate level here, so we're going to talk about some things. The right hand at the beginning, they have a thumb here, and then they want you to come up and do a 1/5 again. The pedal's going to connect it, I don't care. We're dealing without pedal first. The fingering style that I learned and that I use most of the time has certain principles to guide it as to what to do, when to do, and one of those principles is that we don't move the hand any more than we have to. So here, at this first measure, they want you to move your hand already. I'm saying we don't need to do that. Just reach up and do a 2/5 on that one. Because the whole chord is this. It's a C chord in extended position here. We're just not using the G, that's all. But you can do here and then here. And then 4. And that's what I'm recommending you do. But in the last measure, 1/5's fine, because you're down here now. And then lift up, second line lift up, it's between phrases. And then the last measure, the second line, you have a C sharp. It's a half note, hold it down for both notes, and then here. Third line, first measure, you have a half note B natural, hold that down. You repeat that and then come down through here, and then the third line after and the second ending, last measure, 8th notes. I just do a rotate here. Last line, again, it's just a rotate. It's a very small motion. I'm exaggerating it for you. If you can, bring out the melody as the top note. And the last line, they have the 8VA for both hands, so the right hand's going to go up here, and they're rolled. See the wavy line there, wiggly? Don't play them together, just real quick. I'll come back to that when I get to the left hand. And then come back down. And in 97, you're starting out the same. Second measure at the top, you have F sharps, and they're all F sharps. Remember, the accidental applies for that point on in the measure, for the whole measure. Yeah, so they're all F sharps. Then 1/5. I'm recommending here you do a 2/4 on the last one, because that sets you up for the next one as a 1/5. And then the second line first measure, 1/5 on the first one, and then a 2/3 for the second one, because that sets you up for the next one. That's the end of a phrase you're going to move, so it's not as important. You can move. It's just, again, with the fingering, I don't have to move my hands. I'm there almost. And then the second measure again, 2/5 on the EC. And then you do all that some more. It's the nice third line down. You're here. End of a phrase, so you lift up and move down for the A. Last measure, third line, watch the fingering. 1/3. Now hold the C sharp down, it's a half note. Fourth line, hold the B natural down, it's a half note. And that takes you down to the bottom. The last couple of measures, 8th notes. For the second measure here, well, just start at the beginning of the line. You're here, and then thumb on the F, and then come down, and then the left hand, and then the right hand plays the half note C, way up there. 18. Now, the fermata, I'm going to hang on to that for 4 counts with a metronome. Otherwise, you just hang on to it. So you're doing some interesting things in the right hand. I like this. For the left hand, I got some suggestions there too. We're starting out, they want you to, they don't give you fingering, but normally we would finger this 5-3-1. The problem is we got an A. So I'm suggesting to accommodate the A, we finger that chord 5, 4, 2. And that way I have a thumb reserved for the A, so it's here. This is a very common fingering for that chord, because a lot of times you'll do it in extended position, which means there's a C on top, and that's the fingering for it. So this is fine, and then you thumb, and then 5, 3, and then you can do a 5, 2, and then a 4, 2. I mean, if you want, you can do a thumb on the B flat. It's just, for me, it's easier to do a second finger on the B flat, and I don't have to come up in here, so it's here. And then a 4, 2, you slide off. We do a lot of sliding off in piano. We're good sliders. So there. And then next line, and then lift up, and then 4. The end of the second line on the quarter notes, it's a 2. Third line, quarter notes, it's a 2 again. These are 2-note slurs. Down, up, down, up. I don't play the second note staccato, I just separate it, and technically it is a staccato, but it's a long staccato if it is, so it's... pedal's going to cover it up, but you still do the technique with the hand. You feel that, whether you can hear it or not. And then you'd repeat, or go on. Now, third line, last measure, left hand. Watch the fingering, it's 5, 2. This accommodates this pattern. This is a common pattern, especially in boogie woogies. Last line, it's a D. And then you can do this. And that takes us to the last measure of the page 96. Both hands 8/8. So the 8, I've already talked about the right hand going up. Well, the left hand's got to go up too, and both have a wavy line. There's a difference of opinion on how these are interpreted. Oh, I'll just give you the spiel. Technically, when the wavy line is broken, you do both hands at the same time. That's what I was taught a long time ago. Then I learned that if the notes are close enough together to make a chord, they're not like really separated a long way away. If they're close enough together, whether the wavy line is connected or not, you play it all as one chord. So all 4 notes would be rolled as one chord, like so. And that's how I interpret these, because I like the sound of that much better. So rather than doing individual rolled chords, which I don't care for, I'm going to do it as one rolled chord between the hands, like so. And I do it on the beat, so the C in the left hand would be on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you lift up, and that's how I do that measure. Page 97, you're back down here. Second measure, they sang a 5 here. You can scratch up and get the 5. You don't need to do that. You can use 4, but you just got to reach up now to get the 2 on the A. So it's up to you. Do you want to scrunch up to get the 5 on that, or just put the 4 on it and then reach out to get the 2? It's a choice. Second line, second measure, page 97. Watch the fingering. 2 on the G, and then 5, 3, then a 5, 2, now a 5, 3, and then a B natural. Because that B flat in the previous measure is only good for that measure. So this is a B natural. And then the third line. And that takes us to the second measure. And this is another one. They put a parentheses around the note. And they do this sometimes. The idea is we have multiple voices going on at the same time. And they're showing the notes for each voice. It's like multiple singers. At this point, the singers would be singing the same pitch. Because if you look at the right hand's playing that A. The same key is what they're showing for the left hand. That's why it's in parentheses. So when I get this sort of thing, you have to pick which hand is going to play the note, because you don't want both hands playing it. One hand gets it. And the way I do it is I simply give it to whichever hand has the melody. In this case, the right hand has the melody, so the right hand's going to play the note, and the left hand's simply going to rest for that beat, or for that half note. So the left hand's going to come down here at the first measure of that line, and then get out of the way so the right hand can play that note. And then the left hand can continue with the flat. And that's what I recommend you do. As far as the fingering goes, I think you have a choice. The first measure is fine. You start with the thumb here and then get out of the way. And then they're showing second finger here and then a thumb. It's not necessary. You can do third finger. You don't have to bring the thumb down because for the quarter notes they're showing second finger. And then the fourth line again, second finger for the quarter notes. We've done this before. We have had this conversation before. And then the last of it is the same except the bottom line. The first measure you're here. We've had this before. And then here. The right hand plays and then the left hand goes way up here to play those notes again up here. And that's how the hands work. So you work out work out the fingering for each hand separately and then try putting them together. That's a whole nother adventure. Dynamic wise, at the beginning it's MF, that's the melody. Everything else has to be softer than it. Keep it down. Then at the third line down after the second ending, now you're medium soft. Just bring it down a little bit. There's not a lot of difference between medium loud and medium soft. Just bring it down a little. That's the melody. For that rolled chord at the last measure, in my opinion, you can do this very soft or soft, just softer. And then come back to medium soft. Page 97 and the last measure, now you're going to crescendo to here. That's where you're going at. And then come back down, and there's a retardando there too, because now you're going to come down to medium soft. So you have to think here, here to here. That's where you're after. And then immediately come back down so you can be soft. And lift up there. So starting with the last measure of the first line, you're here. A little louder now. You don't have to get really loud. Medium loud's fine. And then come back down and now you're soft. Or medium soft. Whatever. Some sort of soft. It's there. Melody. So fourth line down, last measure, you're soft. Then there's a retardando in the last line, start slowing down. Get softer, die away, softer and slower. Softer and slower. Or slower and softer, whichever comes first, I'm not sure. And that's sort of how the dynamics work and all that. It's a legato piece. You know, you just pretty much connect everything. I like to hear the phrasing, but the pedal's going to mess that up. So let's talk about the pedal. They are legato pedaling pretty much everything. They're keeping it simple for you. And if you're kind of struggling to get it, then by all means keep it simple. Just legato pedal everything. Don't worry about it. But I'd like to give you some things to think about. For those of you who are getting this pretty good, want to take it to another level. For the most part, as you can tell in most music, they're changing the pedal with a harmony. Every time the chord changes, they'll change the pedal so they don't smear chords, mix different chords together. It's overlapping, or legato pedal. So I'm going to push the notes down first and then the pedal. I'm going to change the pedal after I play the notes each time. Just like they're showing, just legato pedal. That's what they're marking, and if that's the way you want to play it, go ahead. I suggest, let's go back to the top. It starts out fine, no problem, legato pedal. line, first measure, I would not pedal the quarter notes. Lift it up when you play the first quarter note. Lift it up right before you play the first quarter note so we hit some silence in the left hand between the E and the B. There, so. And then push it down after you play the notes in the next measure, because you're going to lift up the right hand too at the end of a phrase. So there's silence there. Then legato pedal. Now, the last measure, the second line, I would not pedal the last beat. So it's here. You're holding the C sharp down. I would not pedal. I don't like that smeared. And then pedal the next measure. But again, I would not pedal the last, actually it's the last two beats. And I want to hear the phrasing in the first ending there. So I'm not legato pedaling that. I'm lifting the pedal up with the hands at the end of the phrase. So we hit silence. And then I repeat it, and that's fine. Going on, third line, second ending. I don't pedal the last two beats of that measure in the second ending. Just the first one. And so the D is by itself. And then the right hand comes in, no pedal. And I don't pedal any of this because I want it nice and clear. It's a different style, it's a different effect. This up above is full, lots of overtones going. Lots of overtones going on, lots of sound. But when I get down to this part, I want that real simple. Contrast, and then when I get to the chords I can pedal those. I'm going to lift up before I play the eighth note. The last note on page 96, I want some silence there. Even though the left hand is showing a half note, I'm still going to lift up so that eighth note is by itself. I'm not pedaling the first two measures of page 97. So it's this way. Last measure, the first line, legato pedal, and then we go back to the style we had at the beginning. Lots of overtones, lots of legato. And the third line down, first measure, I would not pedal that measure. And there's a phrase, ending a phrase, starting a phrase in the right hand. I want silence in the right hand. Now I can pedal this. And the third line down, last measure, I don't pedal the last two beats. The same thing in the fourth line down, first measure, I don't pedal the last two beats. And fourth line down, when we start these eighth notes, I don't pedal those measures. And now I can pedal the last two measures. Like so, it gets all blurry and it's kind of an ethereal thing. It's kind of ooh. So it's a very contrasty to this clearness. This part and this part. There's a lot of, it's contrast. And that's what I recommend. Now, if you would ask me a month from now how I would pedal it, I would probably pedal it different. Because it's how I feel it. I'm listening to the sound and what I like at that time. I never play anything the same way two times in a row. So that's the idea with it. It's a personal thing. You learn it the way it's written first. And then you can improvise a little and interpret it a little. Just don't violate what the music is telling you to do too much, I hope. So let's try it slowly together, and I will attempt to pedal it like I suggested. If you want to pedal it the way the book shows, that's fine. You go right ahead. I'll give us 4 counts, so it's 4 beats and a measure, and we'll begin. So hands in position, foot's on the pedal. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2.